Yeah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting of the Lower Central Gardens Trust Board. I'm the Vice Chair, and I'll be Chair in the beginning of this meeting because one of the first items is the election of Chair. So first of all, I'll ask the Democratic Services Officer to read out her housekeeping notice, please.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council's website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by your nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of the building in Bourne Avenue. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you. We're all present, so there's no apologies or substitute members. Therefore, I'll now move on to the election of Chair. Is there nominations from the committee for Chair?
I would like to nominate Matt again, please. Councillor Gillett.
Thank you. So we have a nomination for Councillor Gillett. Is there a seconder? Councillor Williams has seconded. Therefore, congratulations, Chair.
Yeah, but
Well, any other nominations? But everyone, I'm not nominating, and
okay.
yeah, so, so you're fine.
Okay, thank you for that. So now we seek the nomination for the vice chair, and I would like to nominate Jamie for vice chair. Are there any seconders for that? Lawrence got in there first. Are there any other nominations? No. So that was that was all good. So yeah. So moving on, no apologies. Any declarations of interest can be indicated by somebody raising their hand. And so moving on from that, it's a confirmation of the minutes for the meeting held on the 27th of January. Is everyone confident that that's a full and accurate record? Okay, so I confirm that that is an accurate account, and I'm happy to sign whenever that drifts under my direction. Okay. So moving on to items of business. I'd like to invite Kate to present the report in respect of the lower gardens.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. I will probably, if possible, hand over to Helen Wildman in the first instance. It's a shared report. Her items appear first on the agenda, and then you'll hand back to me for the items that relate to environment. But as an overview, it's an update report across various factors affecting the gardens operation.
Thank you. So the first item just on the report is the events programme. We bring this annually across to the board. So we have, as always, we have some minor events that we run across the lower garden. So there will be things like community duck races, bandstand performances. But the ones to note for the events programme for this year, we have a new small event proposal, which is classed as a minor event, but I thought it's worth noting for the South Coast Makers Market. That's 1 day a month. They have a community makers market within the Bobby's department store, and they're looking to use the hard standing just outside at the bottom, 1 day a month for 6 stalls. We've got the annual Arts by the Sea Festival that takes place in September. The programme's still being confirmed, but the usual installations and performances, the similar style as previous years. We've got the Run Bournemouth event, which is the annual running event that takes place in October. They generally use the Street Food Corner and Pine Walk Bandstand area, but there are some elements within the gardens. We've got Bournemouth Christmas, which we discussed at the last meeting, which is the ice rink and Christmas lighting. And then the Bournemouth Bay Run, date to be confirmed, but is the annual running event with the race village in front of the bandstand. No plan changes from this year. And I've mentioned the minor events. The other parts to note is the Art and Makers Market. So we'd previously updated that we'd gone out to tender and were unsuccessful in awarding through the tender and were taking the bookings in-house on a temporary basis. I'm pleased to say that we have had a proposal from a company, Maker Space Market, to look at a trial of running the market for the rest of the year. They've had a stall at the market for a while, so they understand how the market's operated, and then we would take a review following that to look for future years. And I'll hand over to Kate for the rest of the report.
Thank you, Helen. Any questions in relation to the events programme?
Just one quick question. So in the South Coast Makers Market, you say that they are, have they said which day they're going to do that? Which is it, a Saturday or?
Yes, they have. I believe it is a Saturday. I'll try and check that through the rest of the meeting. But it's just one day a month. But I'll double check the exact dates for you.
Because obviously you've got the farmers market as well in the square on a Thursday, I think it is, or something.
Yeah, I believe it's a Saturday, but I'll double check through the meeting.
No further questions? Okay. So that takes us on to the Westaver Road kiosk concession retender. I think we've briefly touched on this at previous meetings, but the kiosk is currently trading as the Picnic Park Deli and has been since 2016. And it was part of the restoration of the Westaver Gardens area that had become very tired. And the unit has been very successful in reducing the antisocial behaviour and other activities that were going on in that area. The original lease was 5.5 years. It's had 2 extensions. These have now been exhausted, and therefore it is a requirement on the council and as such the board to retender that opportunity. So the tender process would be undertaken by colleagues within the Environment Directorate, Procurement, Estates and Legal Services to ensure the tender meets all of our legal requirements going forward. It would be an open tender advertised on the Supplying South West website that the council uses, and we are therefore just bringing the matter to the board's attention and to ask 3 things of the board in relation to it. That the board authorise officers to carry out the tendering exercise on behalf of the board for a period, at least period of potentially 5 to 7 years, and following evaluation of the tenders to award the lease to a successful applicant. To authorise minor changes to the current arrangements. There's a plan included within the report to include the use of half of the arts store for storage and subject to any planning permissions to install an additional wooden decking area, but that would be for the successful tenderer to pursue if they so wished. Also for the board to advise if they would like to appoint a board member to form part of the evaluation process of any tenders we receive. Any questions on that matter before I move on?
It's not so much a question, but I absolutely agree that a board member should be part of the process. Not necessarily volunteering, but I definitely think it should be.
Yeah. Well, if the board would like to think about it, and put you on the spot now, but could advise at a future point of a nominee.
I would put people on the
Okay.
spot. I was just wondering whether Jamie might consider it, given that he's it's his ward as well. so it has an impact on other things in the area. And if you can sort of report back to us,
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
then that would be that would be useful. And I've yeah, and there's other things I can help on that as well. So it's good.
Noted. Thank you. And we'll be in contact on that one. And just on the wider grounds maintenance note, and Chris Wynn may wish to come in and add some further information to this point. Recent activities have included the planting of over 5,000 bulbs within the bedding displays in the garden to obviously continue to support the visual appearance and the biodiversity of that offering we provide. Chris, anything further you want to add in terms of team activities?
No, I'll hold off because I think we're going for a walkabout afterwards, aren't we? So
We are, if that's still okay with the board. Okay, that concludes the main report, other than obviously in relation to financial implications. Any tender process will ensure best value is applied, and appropriate legal processes will be followed. There's no human resource implications from any of the contents of the report. And obviously we'll continue to work in the board's best interest. Thank you.
So I think probably at this stage, there's a couple of things which are worth noting in respect of, not so much questions, but this is essentially correspondence which has come in directly to me as chair. I've only had about 3 or 4 emails since since January on those matters. One was very recent, actually saying that they were very pleased with the bulb planting. So that's something to that the officers can feedback to their teams. The other one has been about cyclists in the cycling through the gardens, which I sort of briefly introduced. So something which I think probably is worth considering from a parks perspective. I know there's a cycle path which they're supposed to be on. Apparently, there's been more cyclists cycling through the other part, and I think you've had correspondence as well, possibly from the same person, but we haven't been able to check that. But in that respect as well. But I think that's probably something which might be worth considering from that perspective.
yeah, I have had correspondence like we were just saying beforehand. What we'll do is we'll review the actual signage down there as part of, I think originally when we did the scheme in the top of the gardens, that was looked at about how to tidy up the lower gardens, especially coming from peer approach and directing you to the proper cycle path rather than straight through the gardens. That wasn't ever funded in part of those works. So it's what we can do with what funding we have to actually improve that situation. But the very minimum, I think we've got to look at the no cycling signage and basically make sure it's clear and legible. So.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think it's some town centre improvement fund money could be knocking around with that, isn't it? So that's what you, and also I suppose rather than just focusing on that, is how people are funneled from the town, the square itself and from those roads around. And it's all fine if we get the signage right within the gardens or just at the entrance to the gardens, but we need to make sure people are directioned around from those various points.
I think that's always a problem, the square bit, because what we were talking about originally when it was first mooted about the changes in the upper gardens was kind of doing a funnel from peer approach, changing the colour of the surface and kind of funneling the cyclist so it's a natural route. In the square, because of the marble, we're not going to be able to do the same sort of thing. It would have to be something else, and it's such a busy area. How do you sign it clearly that you want people to drop down by BH2 and round the back that route? So that is a lot more complicated, and we never really came up with a really good answer to how to do that side. The peer approach bit is a bit easier, although costly, but yeah, the square bit is the tricky bit, really is.
So moving forward, I think we've got three recommendations that we need to concern ourselves with. The first is to authorise the officers to the tendering exercise to seek best value for Westover Gardens kiosk for 5 to 7 years, and following the evaluation of tenders to award a lease to operate the successful applicant. We have got. Propose, seconder? Yeah. Any objections? So secondly, to authorise the minor changes to the current arrangements to include use of the half of the art store for storage and subject to any planning permissions to install additional wooden decking, it's on the Pine Walk area, to also include within the lease, subject to approvals, the use of the wider area near the aviary for specific events.
Could you, I'm not quite clear on where this is, the extra area. Is there a plan that we can have a look at?
There is a plan in the appendices of the report as an outline, but potentially when we go out on site, we can show you in more detail because Ed will be able to join us for that part of today's session. So it may be something you want us to come back and clarify with you following that. If that would be helpful.
I saw the plan on here. It's not
clear enough.
Clear really.
Okay. Well, do we want to defer that decision until we've done the site visit, and then we can bring it back as part of that?
I
if
would
that would be
prefer
helpful.
it personally, but of course I can be outnumbered.
The only thing when you say defer it, when are we deferring it to? I mean, because our next meeting isn't until September.
Yeah, no.
So
I would agree that's too long.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we can have another walk around, as we've had?
I believe we're going to walk around following this meeting this morning.
Okay.
So we can show you in detail. As I say, Ed Alexander is available for that session.
Why don't we do it this way? Subject to us all agreeing, once we've seen it, we can vote on that. No,
I could do a follow-up question to the chair, but the formal sign-off once we've been out.
Fine. Yeah, I don't want to be awkward. I just
Is that okay? Okay, great. Thank you.
No one seconded that one.
oh, sorry. Moving on to confirm that the trustees wish to appoint Jamie Martin as part of the evaluation panel, and I nominate that. Any objections? I don't see the need to exclude the public from the walkabout.
So it's not the walkabout. I believe Kate's got a verbal update that she needs to. If you want to give them some details to why it needs to be excluded, maybe.
It's subject to legal advice at this time.
Okay, so based on that, are people comfortable that we exclude the subject from that section?
Yeah.
So is that a nomination?
Yep.
Second. Yeah. Okay.
You need to